Dillian the Body Snatcher White here. It's the champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
So it seems that whenever Dillian Whyte is interviewed, he's asked about Anthony Joshua. And that happens time and time again. Of course, why not? It's a fight that everybody would like to see. But now that Dillian Whyte is in America, of course, it's like his first time over there, if you like. And obviously all the reporters and whoever are talking to him want to talk about Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua is the biggest name in boxing right now at heavyweight. So obviously with Dillian Whyte already shared a ring with Joshua and said that he wants a rematch with AJ, and of course AJ wants a rematch with Dillian Whyte. Now Dillian has said, and it makes perfect sense, that as much as he would love to have a rematch with him like tomorrow, if you like, he wants a bigger share of the purse, and he can't really argue too much on the share of the purse when he's not champion himself. So his idea is, of course, to become a heavyweight champion of the world. If that means taking on and beating the likes of Joseph Parker or Deontay Wilder, then great. So it means that a fight between him and AJ, although it would sell domestically very, very well anyway, and they would sell out pretty much most arenas in the UK, even without Dillian being champion. With Dillian being champion, it puts the eyes of the world on that fight. So anyway, he was asked about AJ, and Dillian, being Dillian of course, gave a very candid response. Anthony Joshua talks a lot of rubbish. He pretends to be this bad, aggressive man whenever my name is mentioned, but he's not that way inclined. Fight him again, it will be a different story. He's shown that he's vulnerable when he gets put under pressure. You have to keep the pressure on him. So that was Dillian Whyte's response to somebody asking him about Anthony Joshua. Now, like I said, a lot of people here would love to see that fight again. Love it. Now, the first time around, people say, well, Joshua knocked him out in the 7th round, which he did. But you have to remember, and AJ knows this too, and it's not something that's new, it's a case of Dillian Whyte was injured in the first fight. And even then, he put Joshua under a lot of pressure and could have finished him off. But of course, he got like a little bit excited. Obviously, he's injured, and his corner are telling him, we're going to pull you out next round. So of course, he's seeing the opportunity where he's actually managed to wobble Joshua, went for the kill, but didn't put his punches together as well as what he would normally do, especially nowadays. He didn't get in range correctly. His feet were almost in like the wrong place. If you watch it back, you'll see that they were. And Joshua went stiff, but Dillian couldn't get him out of there. Now, of course, both of them have improved a lot since that fight. And Joshua obviously become a 2-time heavyweight champion, or a unified champion if you like. And Dillian is, you can't really say that he's in the rebuilding process because he's not. I mean, also you have to remember, he got a 2-year ban before the Anthony Joshua fight, so not so long before that. So that was 2 years of his career that he couldn't get the badges, if you like, to build up that experience. So Joshua was like coming through, and of course Dillian was a little bit behind, even though Dillian turned pro before Joshua. So that whole thing put him behind. Now, a rematch, I would expect it to be as eventful as the first one. Now, I'm not saying that Dillian would win, I'm not saying Joshua would win, but you can see in the way that they fight now compared to what they did then, both of them have improved dramatically. Joshua is a lot more composed. He's a lot more patient now. Dillian Whyte is too. Dillian Whyte is now boxing rather than blasting. So that has a big effect on a rematch, where both of them will be actually placing punches. But of course, because they don't like each other, now obviously in both of their minds it's 1-1. So Dillian Whyte, he dropped Joshua twice, I believe it was, in the amateurs. I've seen the fight a couple of times, and I'm pretty sure he dropped Joshua twice in that one. Dillian Whyte won. Then, of course, in the pro, Joshua knocked him out in the 7th round. So in both their minds, although a lot of people would discredit the amateur fight as, well, that doesn't matter, people win, lose or draw, no one cares, it's what you do in the pro, and that's fair enough. But in their minds, it's 1-1, and that's both of them. And both of them don't like each other. Joshua actually likes a bit of a tear-up, and he hasn't really had a tear-up since Dillian Whyte, other than his last fight, which was against Vladimir Klitschko. But of course, Klitschko was a lot more experienced and knew how to keep Joshua within range at certain times. But Dillian Whyte, never, ever, ever underestimate Dillian Whyte. Now, could I be a little bit biased on this one? Quite possibly. But fact is, I mean, I was always a fan of his even before me and him started talking. So I kind of have that one in my defense, if you like. But if you want to call me a fanboy, that's absolutely fine. But like I said, I'm not necessarily picking Dillian Whyte to win. And I'm not necessarily saying who I want to win either, because I'm a big fan of both of these guys. And every time these guys fight, I always want them to win. Every single time. Doesn't matter who they're in there with, I always want them to win. Now, of course, if you throw Tyson Fury in the mix as well, again, it hits me with a bit of a conundrum as to who I want to win. So, Dillian versus AJ, AJ versus Tyson, Tyson versus Dillian. I'm in the middle of no man's land, and I don't know who I want to win the fights. So, very, very tough from my personal point of view. Whoever wins, I'll be happy with, but whoever loses, I'll be disappointed for them. So, it's going to be a big fight, and we know Eddie Hearn wants this fight. Like I said, it will sell tomorrow, but if Dillian Whyte could manage to get a world title under his belt, that makes it a massive, massive fight. As we know, Deontay Wilder has already turned down 3 or 4 offers from Eddie Hearn to fight Dillian Whyte. I think the final offer was $4.5 million plus US TV money, and Deontay Wilder still turned it down. Even though he said Dillian Whyte is an easy fight and a spare tire or whatever it was that he called him. So either way, he sees Dillian Whyte as an easy fight. Well, if that's an easy fight, $4.5 million, you should have took it, really, shouldn't you? It would have been the easiest payday of your career, right? But of course, us in the UK, we know Dillian very, very well. And we know that Dillian Whyte can beat Deontay Wilder. We're not saying he will beat him, we're saying he can beat him. So that would have put Deontay Wilder on a bit of a hype train, if you like, in the UK, where UK fans are calling for Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua. But to do that, he needs to get past Dillian Whyte. But of course, if Dillian Whyte manages to get that belt, not only do we want to see him fight AJ again, but we will be calling for that fight even harder if both are champions. Now, we know that Dillian Whyte, he has his US debut on the Crawford and Dongo undercard, and that'll be on the 19th, so next weekend, and he's going to be taking on Malcolm Tan. Now, that should be a relatively walk in the park for Dillian. Should be. But of course, nothing is guaranteed in boxing. All it takes is that one punch. So every fight you go into is always dangerous, so hopefully he's mindful of that. I'm sure he will be. But Anthony Joshua, he's got Kubrat Pulev next, and then Luis Ortiz after that, depending on what Ortiz wants to do. Does he want to force the WBA to strip Joshua and then maybe have that belt on the line if he was to fight Deontay Wilder? I mean, that would be a great fight in itself, of course, as well. One that we'll all be very, very interested in. But of course, from a UK perspective, the last thing in the world we want is Anthony Joshua stripped. We don't want that at all. But of course, if push comes to shove, will he choose the IBF or will he choose the WBA? I think he would rather keep the WBA and fight Luis Ortiz, but he already has an agreement with the IBF. And that's been an agreement for the best part of a year now. Although, to be fair, Pulev was offered to fight beforehand. But instead, Pulev said no, he wanted to fight for the European title. So really, in some ways, Pulev should be told to jog on, get back in line. You had your opportunity on a couple of occasions and you turned it down. So instead, AJ ended up fighting Molina. Now, Pulev is a decent fighter. Let's not get it twisted, okay? I'm not saying that he's scared of Joshua, but in some ways I can kind of see why a lot of people would say that he is. But either way, Pulev will be next for Anthony Joshua. I think that's pretty much set in stone. Hopefully, Luis Ortiz uses his marbles and Al Heyman advises him correctly. Now, bear in mind, Al Heyman advises Wilder as well as Luis Ortiz, and he says to Ortiz, well, look, you know, you can have a big guaranteed fight with Anthony Joshua, earn a lot of money, and of course try and gain 2 belts. So the WBA and of course the IBF will be on the line should Joshua get past Pulev, of course. Or he somehow gets Anthony Joshua stripped. Whether the WBA would do that, I don't know. But if they did, then obviously Luis Ortiz, he may not become automatic champion. He may have to fight somebody else for that belt. But as Wilder said, though, it would be interesting to see if the WBA would allow that belt to be on the line for Wilder versus Luis Ortiz for a unification fight, as they did it with Klitschko. But of course, Klitschko already had a rematch clause against Tyson Fury, so he was eligible to fight for the WBA anyway. Luis Ortiz is, I don't want to say just a mandatory, but he is. So maybe they might be forcing Ortiz to fight somebody else because it's not the same situation. I can see why a lot of people would say that it is, but really it's not. But either way, Luis Ortiz is in a wonderful position right now. And if they did strip Anthony Joshua of the WBA, what about Ortiz versus Dillian Whyte for the belt? So again, that brings it full circle. So Luis Ortiz is in a very, very good position right now. Whichever way he chooses, he's going to win from it, in the sense of financially. Now, he'll get a bigger payday against Joshua. Of course, he could take the belt now, go take care of Wilder, get that belt as well, and then have a fight with Joshua for even more money. So that would work out splendid for Ortiz. But first of all, he has to beat Deontay Wilder. No easy task. And of course, a lot of people who are Wilder fans are saying, oh, well, AJ only beat a 41-year-old old man, Vladimir Klitschko. Yet they're not saying the same thing about Luis Ortiz when there's only a couple of years age difference. Amazing how that one works out. But either way, that's what's going on right now. Dillian Whyte wants Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua wants Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte says next time it'll be different in the sense of he believes he will stop him. So interesting fight. Hopefully we get to see that at some point, and hopefully soon. So like the video, drop a comment and subscribe.
It's the champ, Shannon the Cannon, 2-time heavyweight champion of the world. And you're watching Sports Icons. Subscribe. Let's go, champ. Let's go, champ. Let's go, champ. Champ.